Thank you for coming. I'm extremely envious that I could not make it over there for the first performance of the court martial of Admiral Montojo. I trust that Ken Wolf and the actors will make this a fine afternoon. To Ken and your fellow actors, break a leg. Art is supposed to speak for itself and not the artist, but please allow me to say a few brief words. The forgotten Spanish-American War in the May 1, 1898 Battle of Manila Bay will mark its 120th anniversary next year. The Battle of Manila Bay was America's first overseas naval victory. Admiral Dewey's line, "You may fire when you're ready, Gridley," became such a popular line that he received the first New York ticker tape parade in which 2 million people came, and he became a presidential contender. For Spain, they call this war the disaster. A whole generation, upended by the loss of their empire, revolted through books and writings. You will see some of this national anger in some of the characters in this play. For the Philippines, the destruction of Spain's fleet allowed Emilio Aguinaldo and the rest of the exiles to return home and raise the Philippine flag on June 12. But it also led to the Philippine-American War. This flag raising is referenced briefly. I could have written this as a big struggle between three countries, but when I came across the line in Admiral Dewey's memoirs about how he came to the court-martial defense of Admiral Montojo, I knew that what I wanted to do was really about the story of one individual warrior's kindness towards another. Maybe just like you, I'm tired of all the news about senseless killings and beheadings and terrorism. I felt that this was a classic Hollywood twist. Just some clarification. The Battle of Manila Bay happened on May 1, 1898. It's different from the mock surrender of Manila of August 13, a few months after. In addition, when you hear the words Reina Cristina, it refers to both the Queen and the ship of Admiral Montojo. And then finally, I just want to thank a few people who supported me. My wife Joy, my kids Kate, Jackie, and Nadine, my late father Vicente, my mother Ditas, mother-in-law Anita, Rudy, Joey, Joy, Henry, Hubert, Arnold, Carmela. And to JB Di Mayuga, JB Bailon, Chuck Hugo, Joel Consing, Dicky Gonzalez, Robbie Jacinto, Bongo Yore, and to others I may have failed to mention. Also my advisors, John Topping Jr., Rita Espiritu, Romy Posadas, Alvi Shonko, Gerald Baldivia, Carlos Madrid, and Sonny Tino. So folks, enjoy the show. Thank you very much.
Okay, I will be reading the stage directions and the narrator. Let's have some fun. The Court Martial of Admirante Montojo by Dennis Posadas. Narrator. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. William Shakespeare, Henry V. In 1898, the United States sent the USS Maine to Cuba to try and protect American interests there, only 50 miles away from Florida. Cuban sugar plantation workers had been fighting against the tyranny of their Spanish colonizers, and the independence movement was starting to gain momentum. The USS Maine exploded in Havana Harbor. And a few weeks later, egged on by a war-hungry press, the US Congress authorized military action against Spain in Cuba. Warhawks in the McKinley cabinet, namely Assistant Naval Secretary Teddy Roosevelt, wished to protect the United States as a new world power and modify the order to include Spanish forces in the Philippines. We hear the sound of explosions as we see a montage of photos from the Battle of Manila Bay. Capitan Sanchez and Teniente Rivas entered downstage from both ends in the front of the curtains.
It's not too late to back out of this trial, you know? Almirante Montojo can just plead guilty right now and we'll wrap this up quickly. Just a brief stay in jail. What is that? That's nothing.
Senor, we can't do that. We won't do a plea bargain. My client is innocent, Capitan Sanchez. You do the same thing if you were in my shoes, senor.
Look, in an ordinary trial, I will be the first to agree with you. I guess you're right, but Almirante Montojo, he is the reason why España has lost the empire.
Senor, we both swore to uphold the law, even if it goes against popular opinion. My client is innocent. He did his job well. It was Madrid that did not support him, senor.
In that case, I'll have to go after your client, Almirante Montojo, with everything that the government can muster. The kid gloves are off then. In that case, I'm just giving you some friendly advice. Gente Rivas, why don't you take it?
It's advice I can't take, senor. Take your best shot, Capitan Sanchez. We will be ready, senor.
Capitan Sanchez shakes his head. A painting of an old Spanish naval lawyer is suddenly visible on the wall behind them.
Gente Rivas, I know your late father was the former judge advocate general, but you're making a big mistake here, I think.
Let me be the judge of that, Capitan Sanchez. This has nothing to do with my late father. I'm just trying to do my job as Admiral Montojo's counsel.
Anyway, you are a stubborn lawyer. I will leave that decision up to you. Adios, Gente Rivas.
Adios, Capitan Sanchez. Gracias.
Both men exchange salutes, then exit, lights fade. Act 1, Scene 2. We hear a drum cadence. At Rise, we find ourselves in a courtroom. Uniformed military lawyers and reservers with some civilians enter the stage. Spit and polish is the rule of the day, and it's almost as bright as the sun. Pant creases so sharp they can cut paper. The defendant, Almirante Montojo, enters the courtroom with his defense lawyer, Gente Rivas. We are in Madrid, España, after the May 1988 Battle of Manila Bay. This is the court-martial of Almirante Patricio Montojo, Spanish naval commander in the Battle of Manila Bay. Colonel Castaneda bangs the gavel.
This general court-martial is now in session. Almirante Montojo, you are charged with dereliction of duty and conduct unbecoming of a Spanish naval officer. How do you plead, senor?
Gente Rivas, defense lawyer for Almirante Montojo, looks at his client. With a look that shows he's still excited to be a lawyer, he turns to the judges and stands up. Almirante Montojo stands up with him.
Your Honor, Almirante Montojo pleads not guilty.
The military judges suddenly whisper among themselves excitedly. Colonel Castaneda motions his hand for them to stop.
Teniente Rivas, have you informed your client that the charges brought against him are serious and may bring extremely negative repercussions? Is he aware of the charges?
I have briefed him, Your Honor, on the charges. He is aware. We have talked about this. Almirante Montojo strongly feels he is innocent of all the charges.
The court-martial judges have varied reactions. They try to hide it as they should, but some have slight body reactions. One covers his mouth, the other frowns, another looks in the distance, all of them unhappy with the not guilty plea.
Very well. Prepare your defense well with your client, Counselor. Trial starts in 3 weeks.
Colonel Castaneda bangs the gavel.
Session is adjourned. See you in 2 weeks.
The court judges file out of the courthouse. Capitan Sanchez taps Gente Rivas on the shoulder without saying a word and walks out. Almirante Montojo looks at his wife and 2 sons in military uniform behind him in the audience seats. They stand up to approach him. His wife looks concerned. One son, Enrique Montojo, a naval officer like his father, has a cast.
Papa, are you sure you want to plead not guilty? It looks like they just want a scapegoat.
His wife embraces him. Almirante Montojo looks at his sons.
We did not fail the flag and the Queen at Manila Bay. I know they need a scapegoat, but I am not going to be their excuse. No, I cannot accept that. I am not going for a plea bargain.
I know. They were not in Manila Bay that day.
How is your wound, Eugenio Montojo?
Fine, Papa. It is healing quickly, as is hopefully yours.
Like you, I am healing physically. But this insult of a charge is more painful to us who were actually there. The one here will not heal soon.
Those politicians betrayed us. They never helped us when we were requesting for supplies, and now they want to blame us for their loss. Let us go home, Papa.
Almirante Montojo walks with his family and exits the stage. Lights fade. Act 1, Scene 3. Sound of a doorbell. We're at the whole house of Almirante Montojo. Gente Rivas enters and rings the doorbell. Eugenio Montojo, in naval uniform, lets Gente Rivas in.
How is Almirante Montojo?
Okay, considering the circumstances. Almirante Montojo is in the study. You know where it is. I need to go to the base. I hope you can develop a good defense for Papa against this idiotic charge.
Dientes Rivas looks at Eugenio and taps him on the shoulder, then he walks to the study. Almirante Montojo is writing something with a pen quill and occasionally looks out the window. Dientes Rivas knocks at the door.
Almirante Montojo, may I come in, senor?
Come in. Dispense with the military formalities.
Si, senor.
Dientes Rivas takes a seat and with his leather briefcase in front of him, he pulls out some documents.
I've prepared this defense strategy, senor.
Dientes Rivas hands it to Almirante Montojo, reads it briefly, then places it on his desk. He is not in the mood to read a legal document.
It doesn't matter. The higher-ups want to justify their incompetence with a scapegoat. That's me. I'm the most visible, the highest ranking at Manila Bay.
We will give it our best shot, senor. They simply cannot take that España lost to an upstart world power, the United States.
America might be an upstart, but they had steel-steamed warships like the USS Olympia. What did I have that day? My flagship, the Reina Cristina, and my other ships. Floating pieces of wood that didn't stand a chance. Tradition can only do so much in battle versus modern weapons.
Almirante Montojo seems distant and looks tired. He grabs a photo of his family from the desk.
Are you married, Teniente Rivas?
Not yet, sir. But I am engaged to the daughter of the politician Javier Moyorca, senor.
In the Cortes?
Si, senor.
I've heard of him. You know, once you have a family, you will realize that this is the most important thing in this world. To take care of them. Remember that.
Si, senor. Muchas gracias.
Me and my two sons were in that battle. I and Eugenio Montojo were wounded. What more does Reina Cristina and España want?
With due respect, Almirante Montojo, you are being charged by the government of dereliction of duty and conduct unbecoming that resulted in the loss of the fleet and many men at Manila Bay. España wants a scapegoat. Surely you understand that, senor.
I know that. But they are negligent as well by failing to support our needs in the Philippines. I have many letters on record that show I was asking for supplies so we could make preparations. They never responded with help.
I'll do my best as your lawyer, Almirante Montojo, but at the end of the day, a lot of them simply want to make you an example and get the blame away from them, senor.
We both wear the same uniform, Teniente Rivas. I hope you're not giving up on me before the battle even begins. Remember, men were killed under my charge. Even my flagship, Capitan Luis Cardoso of the Reina Cristina, was killed. This is just a trial, and I'm the one being tried. So don't be so worried. Artillery shells won't be raining down on us.
Of course, Almirante Montojo. I'm just being realistic about our chances, senor.
I will miss my garden. This is why we go into battle. To protect the beauty around us, family, friends, country.
Si, Almirante Montojo. I shall see you in court, senor, at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
I'll be there. Let's give them a good fight.
We will, Almirante Montojo. Gracias, senor.
Dientes Rivas salutes Almirante Montojo, and the latter, after looking at him briefly, salutes back. Dientes Rivas turns to leave the house. On the way out, he sees a wooden cross on the wall. He glances briefly and makes a sign of the cross, then exits. Lights fade. Act 1, Scene 4. The trial proceeds. Capitan Sanchez is on the floor questioning Almirante Montojo, who is seated on the stand. He struts around the courtroom like a cougar pouncing for a kill on an older prey.
Almirante Montojo, is it true that you ordered the raising of the white flag to surrender to Cavillat and Arsenal?
Si, but that was after all our ships had been sunk. We had no choice. The American ship, the Petrel, would have fired at the Arsenal if I had not ordered this. And that would have meant a massive loss of life.
Nonetheless, you did order the white flag to be raised. I'll go back to that later. Almirante Montojo, would you not consider it strange that while you spent a lot of time in Manila Bay, and your opponent, Admiral Dewey, only arrived there that morning, that he managed to defeat you with that home advantage?
No, it is not strange. The Americans had newer steel steamships like the USS Olympia. I had wooden relics from another era. Plus, I did not get what I requested from Madrid.
I'm sure you'll have various excuses. Anyway, the 16-centimeter Krupp gun corresponds almost nearly with the 6-inch gun used by the American Navy. Its caliber in inches is 6.3. It weighs 5½ tons and fires a projectile weighing 99 pounds with a powder charge of 19 pounds. Is this correct, Almirante Montojo?
Si, Capitan Sanchez.
You had a gun with you, right? Why did you not use that against the Americans?
As I had stated previously, the shore artillery at Sobek did not do their job and install the crew.
It seems you had too many cannons that were not installed properly. What about the one in the Intramuros fort in Manila? That would have done damage to the Americans, right?
I had no choice. The Governor General ordered me out of the sea to prevent damage to Manila. These guns did fire, but the Americans traversed a path that was outside the range of the Intramuros guns.
And so you chose to locate your ships in Cavite, where you had the older guns. Not a good choice, Almirante Montojo.
Lives are important to me, Capitan Sanchez. There were too many innocents that would have perished if I had located my ships near the city of Manila. Besides, the littorals, the shallows near Cavite Arsenal would have allowed my men to swim to safety than if we had positioned ourselves near Intramuros.
So defeat was already in your mind before the battle begun, huh? Almirante Montojo? By the way, did you know that the artillery officer in Intramuros fort blew his brains out with his own pistol? He couldn't take La Paloma being played with impunity by the American ships at the harbor. How do you feel about his life, Almirante Montojo?
I am sorry to hear that, Capitan Sanchez, but I had to do what was needed to save our remaining forces from destruction.
One of Admiral Dewey's ships, the McCullough, had visible fire from her smokestack from residual soot. Your gunners at the corridor saw Admiral Dewey's column of ships entering Manila Bay in the very early morning hours because of this accidental smokestack fire, did they not?
Well, yes.
And your shore artillery at the corridor did not fire on them because they were not ready. When they managed to fire, it was too late.
I know, but...
Worst of all, Corridor did not even inform Manila of Admiral Dewey's passage.
Unfortunately, we did not have telegraph communication between Corregidor and Manila.
Your Honors, it is apparent that Almirante Montojo was clearly unprepared for the arrival of Admiral Dewey. Anyway, I shall get back to that. I read your Leon Aldao novel, Almirante Montojo. I never realized until a few days ago that you were a fine writer. Did that take a lot of your time to write?
In my spare time, I wrote. I spent a lot of time away from España and family. Writing was simply my way of keeping sane, just like other officers and men did their own way.
That must have taken a lot of time, Almirante Montojo.
Well, it was a novel.
So, Almirante Montojo, you do admit spending a lot of time writing. Time that you could have spent inspecting fortifications, gauging readiness, and other military matters. Time you could have used to ensure that the Krupp gun was installed properly in Subic Bay. Time you could have used to ensure the corridor gunners were alert at the slightest hint of the enemy. There was much you could have done with your spare time, Almirante Montojo. You were not sent there on a writing vacation, were you not?
I did say I only wrote in my spare time. As a veteran of many battles, I do not need to be told about my responsibilities.
Is it not true, Almirante Montojo, that you were negligent as a commander and you failed your duty to the Reina Cristina and España? Is it not true that because of your negligence, all our ships are at the bottom of Manila Bay?
That is not true! That is a damn lie!
Order! Order in the court! Teniente Rivas, please restrain your client. I will not tolerate these kinds of outbursts in this courtroom.
See, Your Honor, but I also would like to object. Capitan Sanchez was implying that Almirante Montojo was negligent in his duties when in fact he did them. And just like everyone else posted it in a faraway place, like the Philippines, needed to relax to maintain their sanity. What they did in their spare time, as long as it was legal, should not be questioned, Your Honor.
Sustained. But restrain your client from further outbursts, else I will find him in contempt. Capitan Sanchez, are you saying writing took away time from Almirante Montojo's military duties? Where are you headed with this line of questioning? May I remind you that you are questioning a bemedaled naval officer with many years of service to España and Reina Cristina.
Noted, Your Honor, but also an officer, Your Honor, responsible for the sinking of a fleet and major loss of life in Manila Bay. It is our position, Your Honor, that Almirante Montojo had plenty of time to prepare a defense, but he spent most of his time writing his novel, Leon Aldeo. Time that could have been spent, Your Honor, beefing up España's defense at Manila Bay. Now, because of his negligence, the Spanish fleet in the Philippines lies under the waters in Manila Bay.
Your Honor, may I ask my client a question?
Capitan Sanchez, are you done with your questions?
I am for now, Your Honor.
Capitan Sanchez takes his seat. He looks pleased that he scored points with his questioning.
Defense may proceed with the questions.
Almirante Montojo, could you tell this honorable court where you served España and Reina Cristina in your many years in the naval service? Almirante Montojo, I will repeat. Could you tell this honorable court where you served España and Reina Cristina in your many years in the naval service?
I engaged in battles in the southern Philippines island of Mindanao. I was also in the Battle of Aptua and El Caillo in Peru.
What is that gold cross you wear on your uniform, Almirante Montojo?
Well, everyone knows this is the Grand Cross of Reina Maria Cristina, given to me just last year for my many years of naval service.
You were injured at Manila Bay, were you not, Almirante Montojo?
See, I was. It was more apparent a few months ago, but my wounds have healed somewhat.
And your two sons, were they at the battle with you? Are they also in the naval service of España?
See, both my sons were with me, and are also naval officers. They are both here. Eugenio Montojo over there was also wounded in action like me. He and his brother, both naval officers, were with me.
So yours is a military family that have spent many years giving honor to España and Reina Cristina.
See, I and my family have rendered honorable service to España and Reina Cristina.
Almirante Montojo, what was the mood like in Manila prior to the Battle of Manila Bay?
Anxious, I would say. I was in the walled city of Intramuros in Manila just prior to the battle to confer with the Governor General. I was in the crowd when he was exhorting everyone to be brave. Everyone was anxious, but of course we tried to get everyone's confidence up.
What exactly was said during that gathering in Manila, Almirante Montojo?
Well, if I recall what Governor General Basilio, Pakistan Davia said, it was something like,
We will sternly defend our country in honor. The Americans have exhausted our patience with their perfidious machinations, their acts of treachery, their outrages against the laws of nations and international conventions, vain designs, ridiculous boasts. The aggressors shall not profane the tombs of your fathers, gratify their lustful passions at the cost of your wives and daughters, appropriate the property that our industry has accumulated to provide for your old age. Prepare for the struggle. Let us resist with Christian resolve and the appropriate cry of Viva España!
And so when you heard that, were you confident about the outcome of the battle would be?
I was hopeful, yet I could not reconcile what was being said with what I knew to be true. That all I had were wooden, obsolete ships, and help from España was not forthcoming, despite all my requests for help from Madrid.
You wrote Madrid many times asking for help, Almirante Montojo.
See, I sent many letters.
Teniente Rivas goes to his desk and takes some sheets of paper and brings it to Almirante Montojo.
Almirante Montojo, are these the letters that you wrote to the authorities here in Madrid, senor?
Yes, these are the letters that I wrote.
Your Honor, I would like to submit these letters as Defense Exhibit A, senor.
Your Honor, the prosecution has not had time to examine these letters. May I look at those, senor?
Teniente Rivas, can you show these letters to the prosecutor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Teniente Rivas brings the letters to Capitan Sanchez. Capitan Sanchez examines the letters carefully, then hands it back to Teniente Rivas. He then returns the letters back to Colonel Castaneda. Colonel Castaneda shows the letters to the rest of the judges, who take turns looking at those.
These letters will be admitted as evidence.
Muchas gracias, Your Honor. I am done with my questions for now. Because of the late hour, May we resume our trial tomorrow?
It has been a long day. This court adjourns for now and will resume its session at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Colonel Castaneda bangs the gavel. The judges all exit first. Almirante, Montojo, and Teniente Rivas exit. Lights fade. Act 1, Scene 5. Capitan Sanchez enters another part of the stage. He is on his way home. Suddenly, one of the judges, Colonel Cancio, also enters.
Working late, Capitan Sanchez.
Oh, Colonel Cancio. See, Your Honor, just finishing up some paperwork.
I shouldn't say this, but good job in there. Keep it up. You did well.
What a strange statement from a judge. Not that I don't welcome that, but I guess Almirante Montojo really has a lot of enemies here in Madrid.
Capitan Sanchez exits, lights fade. Act 1, Scene 6. The trial resumes. Teniente Rivas is questioning Almirante Montojo, who is still on the stand.
Almirante Montojo, the prosecution wishes to prove that you did nothing to prepare for the arrival of the Americans. But was it not true that you were trying your best to prepare for what you knew would be a trying battle for España? What exactly did you do, Almirante Montojo, to prepare for their arrival?
I've been sending several cables to Madrid, requesting for help prior to the battle. But all I got were tentative replies. I have been actively taking all precautions. My torpedoes and boats were few and deficient. I awaited superior orders. I had no instructions.
Could you give this court an example of some of the replies you received from Madrid, Almirante Montojo?
I do not wish to put some of my superiors in Madrid under unwarranted criticism.
Almirante Montojo, I admire your desire to preserve secrecy, but this is a military court-martial, and you are on trial here. Please inform this court the full extent of what you know.
See, Your Honor, the reply I received was a note of regret from Madrid of not being able to send reinforcements, as they were needed back in España. I again sent a telegram warning that the Americans had more than 50 cannons and that they would come as soon as war was declared. Their reply to me was to show zeal and activity to supplement their deficiencies.
Almirante Montojo pauses, as if not wishing to recall the events of that fateful day. The court waits for his answer. Teniente Rivas approaches his client. He feels he cannot win it. Almirante Montojo will hold back.
Go on, Almirante Montojo.
One time I requested for nitroglycerin to make some mines, but all I received were large rolls of electrical wire. Another cable from Madrid ordered me to shut off all island ports with defensive torpedoes. Madrid knew I had no torpedoes. I finally realized that I cannot rely on Madrid to send help.
Almirante Montojo, could you describe what happened when the Americans fired at your ships? I know it is hard, Almirante Montojo. Please, take your time.
The Americans fired most rapidly. They came upon us numerous projectiles, as 3 cruisers at the head of the line devoted themselves almost entirely to fight the Cristina, my flagship. A short time after the action commenced, one shell exploded in the forecastle and put out of action all those who served the 4 rapid-fire cannons, making splinters of the forward mast, which wounded the helmsman on the bridge, when Lieutenant Jose Nunez took the wheel with a coolness worthy of a great commendation, steering until the end of the fight. In the meanwhile, another shell exploded in the Ola, setting fire to the crew's bags, which they were fortunately able to control. The enemy shortened the distance between us, and rectifying his aim, covered us with a rain of rapid-fire projectiles. At 7:30, one shell destroyed completely the steering gear. I ordered to steer by hand while the rudder was out of action. In the meanwhile, another shell exploded on the poop and put out of action 9 men. Another destroyed the mizzen masthead, bringing down the flag and my ensign, which was replaced immediately.
Objection, Your Honors. Can Almirante Montojo go straight to the point? Is he planning to discuss Magellan's discovery of the Philippines here? Just asking, Your Honors.
Objection denied, Capitan Sanchez. The court would like to hear Almirante Montojo's testimony on how the battle went. Almirante Montojo, please proceed.
Gracias, General Castaneda. A fresh shell exploded in the officer's cabin, covering the hospital with blood, destroying the wounded that were being treated there. Another exploded in the ammunition room astern, filling the quarters with smoke and preventing the working of the hand steering gear. As it was impossible to control the fire, I had to flood the magazine when the cartridges were beginning to explode. Amidships, several shells of smaller caliber went through the smokestack, and one of the large ones penetrated the fire room, putting out of action one master gunner and 12 men serving the guns. Another rendered useless the starboard bow gun. While the fire astern increased, fire was started followed by another shell, which went through the hull and exploded on the deck. The broadside guns, being undamaged, continued firing until there were only one gunner and one seaman remaining unhurt for firing them, as the gun crews had been frequently called upon to substitute those charged with steering, all of whom were out of action. At 10:30, the enemy returned, forming a circle to destroy the arsenal and the ships which remained to me, opening upon them a horrible fire, which we answered as far as we could with the few cannons we still had mounted. There remained the last recourse to sink our vessels, and we accomplished this operation, taking care to save the flag, the distinguishing pennant, the money in the safe, the portable arms, the breech plugs of the guns, and the signal codes.
Almirante Montojo stops. He looks at his wife and sons. His wife is wiping tears from her face.
What can you say about the condition of your ships that day versus the American ships, Almirante Montojo?
Our ships? They were wooden relics from an early era. The Americans had, like the USS Olympia, steel steamships.
Is that everything, Almirante Montojo?
See, that is it.
Your Honor, may we request for a recess?
It is actually late in the day. We will adjourn our session until Wednesday.
Colonel Castaneda bangs the gavel. He leaves the bench and exits. The others exit quietly as well, looking at Almirante Montojo. Capitan Sanchez chooses not to talk to Teniente Rivas and simply exits quietly. We see a montage of courtroom drama photos. Narrated. And so the trial went on, with Capitan Sanchez arguing that Almirante Montojo was negligent in his duties as Spanish naval commander in Manila Bay, and with Teniente Rivas arguing that Almirante Montojo tried but failed to get enough support from Madrid and did the best he could along with his two sons. Lights fade. Act 1, Scene 7. Teniente Rivas sees an attractive brunette lady in a flowing skirt seated on a park bench. Helen of Troy has nothing on her. Half of the bench is unoccupied. He walks towards her.
Excuse me, senorita. May I sit beside you on this bench?
The pretty lady gives a dagger stare at the dashing young naval lawyer, then slowly flashes a smile.
Only if you're prepared to marry me.
They hug and kiss. He looks into her eyes and touches her lips while they embrace.
I thought that is what engagement rings are for, Evita Mallorca.
Speaking of our engagement, Teniente Rivas, my father has said that we should break it off, since you insist on defending that Almirante Montojo. He said you should let someone else defend him.
I'm only a naval lawyer, Evita Mallorca, and your father is a politician in the Cortes Parliament. But I need to defend Almirante Montojo. I would be shirking my responsibilities as a lawyer if I didn't. Besides, I believe him. He is really innocent of these trumped-up charges.
Papa thinks it won't be good for your career if you defend someone responsible for España's defeat. Can't you for once take his advice? I know you don't like being told what to do, but can you just do this for me?
Teniente Rivas stands up, turns and faces her. Evita Mallorca remains seated on the park bench.
I'm sorry, Evita Mallorca. I can't do that. I have a sworn duty to uphold. I need to defend Almirante Montojo. He is an innocent man, and I believe him. Frankly, I'm not even sure we'll win this trial. Everyone in Madrid seems to want to put him in jail. I'm just trying to be a good defense lawyer. But it's not easy, especially in this case.
Evita Mallorca stands up. She stands up suddenly, then turns and starts to walk away from Teniente Rivas along the pathway. She says nothing. Teniente Rivas follows and walks behind her. Teniente Rivas reaches out and grabs her forearm.
Wait, does this mean you're pulling off our engagement?
Evita Mallorca stops. She turns to face Teniente Rivas with a pout on her face. She touches her lips with her index finger and then drops her hand. Her stern look suddenly turns into a smile.
You men are all alike. I was only teasing you, Teniente Rivas. Of course we are engaged. That is your decision. Then I will just have to tell Papa that is your decision, and I'll stand behind you.
Teniente Rivas grabs Evita Moroca and gives her a hug and a full kiss on the lips. He then breaks off and starts to walk away.
I am late and need to run off to court. You tell your papa he will be proud of me once I win this case.
Evita Moroca gives him a flying kiss with her palm. She is standing in the pathway. The beautiful park frames her lovely appearance.
I know you will win, Teniente Rivas. Te amo.
Te amo, Evita Moroca. I will win this case for you.
Teniente Rivas and Evita Moroca exit in opposite directions. Lights fade. Act 1, Scene 8. Teniente Rivas is finishing his cross-examination of his witness on the stand, Marinero Rojas.
And so, you are certain that based on what you personally witnessed last May 1st, that Almirante Montojo acted bravely and upheld the honor of España and Reina Cristina.
Oh, si, Teniente Rivas. Almirante Montojo was calm and collected during the battle, and he upheld the honor of España and Reina Cristina with his actions that day. I personally saw him, senor.
Defense has no more questions, your honors.
Capitan Sanchez, your witness.
Mariano Rojas, how long have you served under Almirante Montojo?
2 years, Captain.
Mariano Rojas, where are you from, and at what age did you join the Navy? And why did you join, if I may add?
Captain, I am from Madrid. I joined at age 18 so I could see the world.
Mariano Rojas, what were you doing that day when the Americans came?
I was at my post, Captain, at the starboard side, 4 cannons of the Reina Cristina, senor, firing at the Americans. I saw Almirante Montojo, and he was directing us bravely.
Really? Could there have been a chance you were not there, Mariano Rojas? Mariano Rojas, I will ask you again, what were you doing on the morning of May 1st, 1898? Not what would you have been telling your friends and family that you were doing? Colonel Castaneda, could you ask the witness to answer my question?
Marinero Rojas, please answer the question, else I will be forced to put you in jail for contempt.
Is it not true, Marinero Rojas, that you were not even in Reina Cristina that day? It is not true. Is it not true you were at a local girl's house, and when you tried to join your fellow sailors back at Reina Cristina, the boat that would take you had already left?
Si, senor.
There's a loud groan from the court. Both Teniente Rivas and Almirante Montojo's faces are in shock.
Your honors, may I ask for a recess to privately confer with my witness?
Denied. Capitan Sanchez, please proceed.
A reconsideration, your honor.
I have denied your motion, Teniente Rivas. Capitan Sanchez, please proceed.
Why did you lie, Mariano Rojas? You have just committed perjury, so you better tell the truth now.
I could not face my friends and family, sir. They found out I was not in the battle. It was an accident, senor. The boat had only left 5 minutes before I arrived. I wanted so much to join them, senor. I am not a coward, senor.
Nobody is saying you are a coward, Marinero Rojas. It was a twist of fate that you could not join your fellow sailors, and perhaps because of the heat of the battle, they never noticed your absence. But, your honors, this young man has lied. He has committed perjury. He was not at the Reina Cristina to witness the so-called bravery of Almirante Montojo. He lied on the stand. He was not there.
Lights fade. Act 2, Scene 1. Teniente Rivas sees one of the court judges and salutes him. The military judge, Capitan Ricafrente, salutes him back. Teniente Rivas is about to enter the courthouse when he is summoned by Capitan Ricafrente. There is no one else around.
Counselor Wade, confidentially, I'd like to give you some friendly advice, if you're willing to take it. I knew your late father a long time ago, and I met Almirante Montojo briefly at his underclassmen at the Naval School in Cadiz. I'm not sure he remembers me from way back, though.
Si, senor. Go ahead, senor.
It was a disaster with Mariano Rojas in court. Next time, screen your witnesses carefully. You should immediately advise Almirante Montojo to change his plea to guilty and to plea bargain for a lesser sentence. Why don't you do this? You're his lawyer. You do realize what he's up against.
Capitan Ricafrente, I did bring it up. He would rather go to prison than do a plea bargain, senor.
That might sound like an unreasonable request to a man of honor like him. But he has to realize that the loss of this fleet at Manila Bay was too great a humiliation for España. They want a scapegoat, and it will not be the bumbling fools here in Madrid. As you've seen with Capitan Sanchez, he will stop at nothing to put Almirante Montojo behind bars.
I'm sure he knows that, senor. We have discussed it. But he would never plead guilty just to bargain a lesser sentence, senor.
Well, what would change it? For honor? Only a fool would do that. The only man who can truly say that Almirante Montojo did the right thing would be his enemy, Admiral Dewey.
Excuse me, senor. What did you just say?
I was only joking. Why would Admiral Dewey defend his enemy opponent? It's unheard of. Anyway, I have to go. Judgment is in 2 weeks.
Muchas gracias, Capitan Ricafrente, for the advice. I will discuss it with my client.
Rivas salutes Capitan Ricafrente, who returns it. Rivas looks intrigued by Capitan Ricafrente's suggestion and then shrugs it off. They both exit, lights fade. Act 2, Scene 2. Rivas meets the next day with Almirante Montojo. They are having breakfast in the garden. The uniformed household helps pour coffee on into their cups, and then leaves.
Capitan Sanchez is a really good prosecutor. He almost got us yesterday, I must admit.
Si, senor. He is going to go against us with no let-up. The government really intends to put you in jail, senor.
I'm not worried. You are a capable defense lawyer.
Senor, I am doing my best, but I hope you realize that the odds are stacked against us, senor. I know you don't want to hear about plea bargains, but it is an option open to us, senor.
No, that's the end of that. No plea bargain.
I bumped into Capitan Ricafrente on the way to the courthouse. He said that cross-examination of Marino Rojas was a disaster for us.
Well, it is a setback, but we need to move on.
Capitan Ricafrente said he knew my late father when he was starting out. He said he also knew you from the naval school in Cadiz many years ago.
Nothing unusual about that. See, I recall him from way back. Except for a brief interaction, that's all I remember. As for your late father, well, he was the Judge Advocate General, so everyone knew him, including me.
He also suggested that you should consider a guilty plea so we could plea bargain a lesser sentence.
No! I told you I'd never do that! Not even if it means they find me guilty. We have talked about this.
I knew you would say that, senor. Actually, Capitan Ricafrente jokingly suggested that Admiral Dewey, if he testifies on your behalf, might be the only man who could save you from a guilty verdict.
Can you repeat what you just said?
Senor, he said that the only possible way he thinks you could be saved from a guilty verdict is if Admiral Dewey testifies on your behalf.
What? Is that even remotely possible?
I do not know, Almirante Montojo. I have never heard of an enemy commander testifying on behalf of his opponent in a court-martial.
I like the idea. I want you to do it. Mail a letter from me to Admiral Dewey. Maybe he can't come here, but maybe he can oblige me, at least with a letter to a fellow warrior.
This is an unusual defense strategy, Almirante Montojo. I mean, I like the idea too, but frankly, well, no one has done it, senor. It sounds like grasping at straws, senor.
Don't worry about that. How do you think battles are won? Just make sure you mail the letter that I will give you.
Almirante Montojo stands up. Rivas hurriedly eats a small piece of his buttered bread, then wipes his hands on his napkin.
Let's go to my study.
Both of them exit, lights fade. Act 2, Scene 3. We see the U.S. flag flying briefly. Admiral Dewey is in his office in his dress whites. Suddenly, his assistant enters.
Any reports from the field?
Aye, sir. The Filipinos, led by Emilio Aguinaldo, are still gaining ground against the Spaniards and are poised at the outskirts of Manila, sir.
The junior officer sees a big envelope on the desk. He opens it, reads it, and then appears surprised.
Sir, you won't believe this.
Try me.
Well, remember Spanish Almirante Montojo, sir?
Of course. I sank most of his ships, including his flagship, the Reina Cristina. The rest that I didn't sink, he scuttered himself. His ships are now at the bottom of Manila Bay. What's up?
Sir, He is asking through this translated telegram if you could send a letter on his behalf defending his actions that day in Manila Bay. Ooh, and he even sent you a box of cigars.
Give that to me.
Junior officer hands the telegrams in the cigar box to Admiral Dewey. Admiral Dewey looks surprised and reads the telegram. He lays the cigar box on the table. Spotlight on Admirante Montojo, writing the letter in his study with Teniente Rivas beside him. Another spotlight is on Admiral Dewey reading the letter.
To His Excellency, Rear Admiral Dewey, my dear sir, with all my consideration and special respect, I present my earnest thanks for the amiable reply which you took occasion to send to my letter in the communication of the 24th ultimo. Regretting also that the circumstances in which we find ourselves do not permit me to convey my feelings by conversation. Being called to Madrid to make answer to the charges which may be made against me, principally for going to Subic and for the loss of my squadron at Cavite, I have to defend myself from the calumny which may be raised against me. For this purpose, it would be of greatest utility and much force if I were able to offer the highly valuable testimony of the authorized opinion of yourself, the distinguished Commander-in-Chief of the squadron which I had the honor of engaging. For this purpose, I am compelled to put on record, 1, that the port of Subic was without shore fortifications or submarine torpedoes at its entrance. 2, that the destruction of my squadron, given the superiority of yours, would have been far more complete at Subic than at Cavite because of the depth of water being much greater in the former port. Ships and men would have sunk, causing great loss of life. 3, that you did not find us unready at the entrance of Manila Bay, and still less so at Cavite, and the fortune did not favor the Spaniards. It was not for a lack of valor, but principally because we had poor ships. I know that my temerity in making this request of you is very great, but invoking the fact that we belong to the same profession, and remembering that you more than once had the kindness to praise my conduct, I force myself to believe that this will be well received. The affair has an immense importance for me, and since it is closely related to my honor and personal reputation. For my part, after begging your pardon 1,000 times for the liberty which I am taking, I hope that you will kindly grant my request, for which your faithful servant will be eternally grateful. Signed, Patricio Montojo.
Spotlight fades on Admirante Montojo and resumes back to Admiral Dewey on stage. Admiral Dewey seems overcome with the letter he just read. Nothing in his career in the Navy has prepared him for something like this.
Where did this letter come from? Is this a joke?
No, sir. A letter arrived via diplomatic pouch at our embassy in Madrid. I believe it is truly from Almirante Montojo, sir.
I've never heard of an instance where an enemy commander said something good about his opponent, especially someone he came across in the heat of battle. But we're all in the profession of arms. We are simply instruments of the politicians who order us into these wars. Even Almirante Montojo, he was probably just a victim of Madrid's shortcomings and maladministration. Despite his wooden ships, he and his men displayed gallantry that day, in my opinion. Although, if you're asking me frankly, he should have made his last stand at Subic Bay. That reason of his that the water was too deep at Subic Bay and that his sailors would have drowned. Well, that doesn't fly well with me. He had 25 small gunboats. He had 25 small gunboats that he could have used as torpedo launches. However, maybe there's a reason we don't know about, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We all have a job to do, which is to win battles. At the end of the day, if we've done our jobs with the same level of honor, regardless of how it turns out, we're all the same. Warriors in defense of our country, right?
Aye, sir. Ours is but to do or die, but he is, or was, our opponent. Plus, didn't we give them a chance to surrender to us instead of the Filipino forces by agreeing to that mock surrender of Manila on August 13th, sir?
Yeah, and it still killed a few men because some of the gunners actually shot and scored direct hits against their fort.
This idea of yours, sir, about possibly helping Almirante Montojo, is this something the Naval Academy taught you?
Naval Academy, Norwich Military School, my childhood days in Montpelier, Vermont. My father, Dr. Julius Dewey, whose ideas, right and wrong, were quite fixed, if I may add. My mother, though she died early, my great-grandfather, William Dewey Hannibal, whose story spurred me on towards a military career, who knows? It's the right thing to do, that's all I know, and if I may add, probably something that Admiral Farragut, someone I admire greatly, would do. Anyway, let me think about this, and maybe even discuss it with Navy Secretary Roosevelt. I'm not sure if I can even do this. It is interesting to think about. Thank you for bringing this matter up.
Just doing my job, sir. By the way, just my opinion, I think whatever path you choose, I'm sure it will be the right thing, sir.
Junior officer salutes and Admiral Dewey returns it. The junior officer starts to leave, then Admiral Dewey stops him.
Wait.
Admiral Dewey grabs the cigar box and opens it. He gets 2 cigars and gives one to the junior officer. Admiral Dewey smells it and nods his head of approval.
Nice touch, sir, from Admiral Montojo.
I'm beginning to like him even more.
Thank you, sir.
The junior officer turns and exits. Admiral Dewey sits down and reads the letter. He leans back in his seat to reminisce about the day of May 1st, 1898 in Manila Bay.
You may fire when ready, Gridley.
Several loud explosions in a series are heard. In sync, red lights flicker. In the background, some smoke appears on the stage. Spotlight shines on some Spanish sailors. There are some corpses on stage. Some of the survivors are assisting those who are badly wounded. The uninjured ones assist the wounded, move the casualties into stretchers, and they all exit off the stage. Lights fade. Act 2, Scene 4. The court drama resumes. Almirante Montojo and Teniente Rivas are standing.
Almirante Montojo, do you have any last words for the court?
It remains only to say that all the chiefs, officers, engineers, quartermasters, gunners, sailors, and soldiers rivaled one another in sustaining with honor the good name of the Navy on this sad day. The inefficiency of the vessels which compose my little squadron and lack of all classes of the personnel, especially master gunners and seaman gunners, the inaptitude of some of the provisional machinists, the scarcity of rapid-fire cannons, the strong crews of the enemy, and the unprotected character of the greater part of our vessels, all contributed to make more decided the sacrifice which we made for our country and to prevent the possibility of the horrors of the bombardment of the city of Manila, with the conviction that with the scarcity of our force against a superior enemy, we were going to certain death and could expect the loss of all our ships. Our casualties, including those of the arsenal, amounted to 381 men killed and wounded.
The judges look at each other. Almirante Montojo and Teniente Rivas remain standing. Almirante Montojo seems resigned to whatever the verdict will be, but Teniente Rivas still looks hopeful.
On the indictment of dereliction of duty and conduct unbecoming brought forth by this court-martial tribunal, the members find the defendant guilty. The defendant is to be placed in military custody until sentencing is announced next week. This court is adjourned.
Colonel Castaneda bangs the gavel. Almirante Montojo and Teniente Rivas' ashen faces look like they've lost a championship game. Almirante Montojo's knees give way and he has to support himself by leaning with his 2 arms on the desk. The judges stand up and file out of the courtroom. Capitan Sanchez approaches Teniente Rivas.
Your client should have just pleaded guilty. There was no way that this defeat could simply be overlooked. I feel sorry about your client, but I had a job to do.
I understand, Capitan Sanchez.
I'll see you around, Teniente Rivas. You're shaping up to be a fine defense lawyer.
Almirante Montojo is being comforted by his wife and sons. He looks like a broken man. A military policeman takes Almirante Montojo into custody and leads him out of the courthouse into the jail. His wife breaks down. The 2 brothers comfort their mother. Teniente Rivas approaches her.
I will file an appeal. This is not over yet. We will file an appeal.
Gracias, Teniente Rivas. Let's pray that your appeal can save my father from jail.
They exit, lights fade. Act 2, Scene 5. The Spanish military police place Almirante Montojo inside a jail cell. No words are spoken. Almirante Montojo looks around. He looks out the window. He tries lying down on the bed. He keeps pacing around. He holds the cold metal bars of the jail cell. While grasping the metal bars with both his hands, he bows down with his eyes shut. His forehead touches the cold steel bars. Only then does it dawn on him. His world has totally collapsed. The once proud Almirante Montojo is no more. He breaks down totally and weeps uncontrollably. Suddenly he hears footsteps. He wipes the tears and composes himself. Tientes Rivas walks in. Almirante Montojo stands up.
Almirante Montojo, just hang on. I'm planning to file our appeal.
Muchas gracias, Teniente Rivas. Is there a new development? Has Admiral Dewey replied to my letter?
Unfortunately, he hasn't replied yet, Senor.
What will be the basis of our appeal?
I'm still strategizing it, Senor.
Then, we have nothing.
I'm sure we'll come up with something, Senor. We're not giving up yet.
Okay. Maybe you should just come back when you have something. I need to rest.
Si, Senor. I'll go ahead then and work on the appeal.
Wait, Teniente Rivas. Sorry. I know you are doing your best.
No problem, Senor.
Anyway, I appreciate your assistance as my lawyer. But if it's not too much to ask, could you get me a cool pen, some ink and paper? I'd like to start writing again while I'm here.
I understand, Almirante Montojo. I will get you a quill, pen, ink, and paper when I come back. I will see you soon then. Let's hope we get some good news soon.
Okay, Teniente Rivas. Muchas gracias.
Tiente Rivas salutes Almirante Montojo, who returns his salute. Tiente Rivas exits, lights fade. Act 2, Scene 6. Tiente Rivas and Evita Mallorca are having dinner at their house. Senor Mallorca is fussing over her future son-in-law. Javier Mallorca is a 60-something politician of the Cortes Parliament. The four are seated at the table. A household helper in uniform is serving soup to the four.
Aren't you glad this sordid affair with Almirante Montojo is done? The cross-examination of Marinero Rojas by Captain Sanchez nailed it. At least you can move on.
Senor, I hope you understand. I am still Almirante Montojo's lawyer. I will need to file an appeal.
Mother, let us go to the kitchen so we can pick the dessert.
Senora Mallorca is quick with the draw. This looks like a matter between her husband and her future son-in-law to discuss.
You are right. Will you excuse us briefly?
No worries, Senora Mallorca.
Both mother and daughter leave the dining table. Javier Mallorca decides to grab a bottle of Spanish brandy on the nearby cabinet and 2 glasses.
Brandy?
Maybe later, Senor.
I need a drink. You know, I like you. And I know you will make a good future son-in-law. But proceeding on this path will just make you more unpopular in Madrid. You know, whenever I am attending a session at the Cortes, all I hear about is when Almirante Montojo will be thrown in jail. You sure you don't want some brandy?
Okay, Senor. Maybe I'll have one.
The toast to España and the Queen.
To España and the Queen. That is something I will have to deal with, Senor. I am Almirante Montojo's lawyer, and I still need to defend and get what is best for my client, no matter what the circumstances. The political implications of what I am doing are beyond me.
I really don't agree. You wouldn't make too many friends these days in Madrid. But I do admire your courage and your passion. Idealism. I wish I could be young again. Don't worry, I will stand behind you. You'll make a fine son-in-law and husband to my daughter. Well, we better call the ladies. I'm getting hungry, because I'm sure you are.
I'm starving, Senor.
They both have a laugh as they exit, lights fade. Act 2, Scene 7. Tientes Rivas and Evita Mallorca are holding hands and having a walk after dinner outside her house.
It seems you have convinced my father, grudgingly though, about what you were doing.
That's a good thing, isn't it? You didn't answer my question, Evita Mallorca. You're not happy about what I am doing.
Teniente Rivas, is being a lawyer more important to you than me?
That's an unfair question, Evita Mallorca. Te amo mucho. But I would like to be the best lawyer I can be. Since I am defending Almirante Montojo, I would like to give him the best defense he can get.
But he has already been judged guilty by the court. Didn't you see how Capitan Sanchez demolished your witness?
I will appeal the decision. Look, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but we might be able to get some help from an unexpected source.
Help from who? Everyone in Madrid wants Almirante Montojo behind bars. And this is why I wish you would stop this nonsense. Although I know you won't.
I can't tell you just yet. Anyway, darling, you will just have to trust me. I might still be able to pull an ace up my sleeve.
I don't know. I feel your work is more important to you than me. Than us.
No, of course not, Evita Mallorca.
Tita Rivas tries to pull Evita Mallorca gently towards him, and she pulls away.
Maybe we should call off the engagement until you've thought carefully about what is important to you. Your work or me.
Evita Mallorca, please don't do this. Te amo mucho. You know that.
No, I think you should really decide first what is important to you. Your defense of Almirante Montojo is a lost cause, Teniente Rivas. Give it up, or give me up. You have some thinking to do, Teniente Rivas. I'll just be here, but I won't play second fiddle to your work as a lawyer.
She pulls the engagement ring from her finger and returns it to Teniente Rivas.
When you've decided that I come first, then come back and let me know. Until then, let's not meet.
Evita Mallorca exits. Teniente Rivas, with his head bowed, looks at the engagement ring and then exits. Lights fade. Act 3, Scene 1. Teniente Rivas is in his house. He's preparing for his appeal while drinking coffee. But he keeps getting distracted by Evita Mallorca's framed photograph. Suddenly, a mailman arrives bearing a letter. The mailman rings the doorbell. Teniente Rivas hears the doorbell.
Who is it?
Letter, senor.
From who?
From Washington, D.C., from Admiral Dewey, senor.
Muchas gracias.
What's the rush?
My client. He is due to be shipped and imprisoned far away. I must see the judges immediately.
Oh, you're the lawyer for that Almirante Montojo. Well, let him hang for all I care. Didn't he lose his fleet in Manila Bay?
He is innocent.
Yeah, aren't they all? Why, I even have a distant cousin who died in Manila Bay.
Look, this letter from Admiral Dewey himself shows Almirante Montojo acted bravely in battle.
Well, you better hurry, senor.
I will. Gracias. You do not know how much help this means.
They exit in opposite directions, lights fade. Act 3, Scene 2. Teniente Rivas arrives at the military courthouse. A sentry startles and follows him. The sentry sees Teniente Rivas is about to enter the courtroom where there's a trial in session.
Stop, senor. You can't go in there. There's another court-martial ongoing.
Teniente Rivas stops a bit to walk, then at the last second runs and barges into the courtroom. The sentry runs after him. Teniente Rivas, followed by the sentry, barge into the courtroom where the trial is in session, is suddenly disturbed.
What is going on here? Counselor! I can have you disciplined and dismissed from the service and disbarred for this.
I tried to stop him, senor.
Your Honor, my apologies. I would not barge in here if this was not of the highest importance.
Teniente Rivas pulls out the letter of Admiral Dewey from his breast pocket. He waves it so that the court-martial judges all see it.
Your Honors, may I approach and give you this note from Washington, D.C., from Admiral Dewey himself. May I approach and give the letter to Your Honor?
Well, since you have disrupted the proceedings of this honorable court, I will have to declare a recess. For this trial, we'll resume our session at 2 p.m. In the meantime, please clear the courtroom. Just need to have the discussion with this brash young lawyer whose military career will probably not last too long.
Colonel Castellano bangs the gavel, the courtroom is cleared. The military officers look menacingly at the lawyer, except for Capitan Ricafrente, who gave him the advice earlier. Capitan Ricafrente looks impressed with this young Teniente Rivas.
Your Honors, I must object to Teniente Rivas' stunt. I don't see the value of this letter. Even if it were true, the court has already rendered its judgment. Plus, it comes from the very man who has been the cause of this, of our defeat. Our ships are at the bottom of Manila Bay because of Admiral Dewey.
I have to agree with Capitan Sanchez. Why are we even entertaining this letter from Admiral Dewey? This is highly unusual, to say the least.
Capitan Sanchez, Coronel Cancio, your objections are noted. But I would like to see the letter from Admiral Dewey.
I would also like to see it as well, Colonel Castaneda.
You may approach, Counselor. Let us see that letter. This, I must say, is highly unusual, Counselor. Have you heard of an enemy military officer testifying on behalf of his opponent?
I must admit, Your Honor, that before today, I had not. But I would not be surprised. After all, Senor, most of us who wear the uniform are, I believe, honorable men. We all have hopes and dreams. We all fight for our flag, country, for our fellow soldiers, and our honor. Admiral Dewey, he had his orders. My client, Almirante Montojo, he had his orders. Unfortunately, someone had to win, and someone had to lose. But both gave it their all, their best. I believe, dear sirs, that in writing this letter for Almirante Montojo, our adversary, Admiral Dewey, recognized this. We share the same belief that win or lose, what matters in the end is how we fought for what we believed was right. This letter is a testimony from a fellow warrior, and I believe must be given its due. That is what is demanded of all of us in uniform. It is only perhaps that we are on different sides, but we are, I believe, all part of a brotherhood. Lastly, is this not a good thing? Can you imagine if warriors went out of their way to exterminate their opponent even when that opponent has surrendered? If all soldiers employed treachery and simply did away with all these gentlemanly codes of conduct, that would be a barbaric world. Is it not a good thing that we have these codes of conduct among fighting men? I am quite glad that Admiral Dewey has sent this letter. At least it proves that the code still exists. But will it, in the future, exist if we do not honor it? If we do not celebrate it? Gracias, Your Honors, for allowing me to submit this vital piece of evidence today.
Inspiring words, Counselor. Give us a moment and wait outside while we discuss this unusual letter from Admiral Dewey.
Tenta Rivas is escorted outside by the sentry and waits outside the court and looks at the Spanish flag. The sentry looks at him with an annoyed stare. On another part of the stage, spotlight on the judges having a tense discussion.
Well, gentlemen, how do we fix this mess?
There's actually nothing to fix, Colonel Castaneda. The verdict of guilty is fine as it stands. I hope you're not seriously thinking about overturning it.
I did not say I am, but I must admit the thought has crossed my mind.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we rendered a verdict based on the facts. Someone had to be found guilty for España and Reina Cristina's loss at Manila Bay.
Had to be found guilty? Cancio, does that not sound unfair? That we were simply looking for a scapegoat? Wasn't it clear from the letters that Almirante Montojo sent many requests for assistance for various material he needed to defend his forces in the Philippines?
I'm actually leaning along those lines, Capitan Ricafrente, that in our zeal to find someone to blame for the debacle in Manila, we took one of our finest officers and pronounced him guilty.
I am troubled by your line of thinking, both of you. We are men in uniform. We take the good with the bad. He should be prepared to take the consequences for his actions. Besides, why do we put value into this letter our foe Admiral Dewey wrote on his behalf? As far as I am concerned, before 1 May 1898, we were a world power. Now what are we? Our society is in shock. Our poets, our writers, everyone does not know how to deal with our situation.
Yes, but we're not talking about geopolitics here. We're lawyers. Granted, Admiral Dewey was our foe in Manila Bay. He took the time to defend the honor of one of our own brothers in uniform. Besides, didn't Almirante Cervera, who headed our ships in the Caribbean, say that this war could cause the total ruin of España? That we were simply trying to defend a romantic ideal? The Filipinos, they've been wanting to be free for a long time. I heard they just raised their flag and declared independence. Coronel Castaneda, I propose we overturn the verdict against Almirante Montojo. I know this is highly unusual, but after reading this letter from Admiral Dewey, I cannot in conscience continue with the guilty verdict.
You are making a big mistake, Capitan Ricafrente. There will be repercussions here in Madrid to your proposal. I suggest you withdraw it. Colonel Castaneda, do you think this is an unwise proposal?
Colonel Castaneda.
Do you know this young lawyer, Teniente Rivas? He could have been easily one of us when we were his age. What has happened to us? We've become too pragmatic, too adjusting to the ways of the world. You know, Coronel Cancio, Capitan Ricafrente, is right. Even I, in good conscience, cannot keep Almirante Montojo in jail with this letter from Admiral Dewey.
You are both insane. Don't you realize what this means? Both your careers will be put in the freezer. The higher-ups in Madrid want Almirante Montojo in jail. We have lost our empire. What else do you want?
Coronel Cancio, I am not getting any younger. When I face my maker, I do not want to simply say I made my most important decision to please the higher-ups in Madrid or to save my career. I want to see justice done. I say we overturn the guilty verdict. Maybe release Almirante Montojo from the Navy, but to put him in jail with a guilty verdict to tarnish his record? No, I will not go that far. Besides, is it not too much to assign blame to one man for the end of our empire? America's star has been rising for some time, and ours, well, frankly, we have had our own problems. These are big problems, and these are not of Almirante Montojo's making. I agree with Captain Ricafrente. The verdict needs to be overturned.
Gracias, Colonel Castaneda. If I may add, we men in uniform are simply pawns in this game of global politics. Let the politicians in the Cortes worry about that. I agree with what Admiral Dewey said in his letter. Almirante Montojo did the best that he could given the circumstances and limitations of what he had.
You two are insane. Madrid will not let you off easily because of this. I vote against it. Take your chances. There will be hell to pay, senor.
The guilty verdict is hereby overturned. You will write the dissenting opinion, Coronel Cancio. Both of us will author the decision to overturn Almirante Montojo's guilty verdict. Sentry, please call Teniente Rivas back into the courtroom.
Si, senor.
The sentry turns around and fetches Teniente Rivas outside.
Senor, you are being called back in.
Teniente Rivas walks back into with the sentry. Inside, Teniente Rivas sees a painting of his late father, the former Judge Advocate General of the Spanish military, and pauses briefly before it as if to ask his father for some advice. The sentry waits for him. He seems to understand what is going on. Teniente Rivas enters the courtroom. The judges are waiting for him.
Sit down, Counselor. Please read aloud the letter that Admiral Dewey gave in defense of Almirante Montojo.
My dear sir, it gives me pleasure replying to your letter of the 26th instant to record my testimony in favor of a gallant foe. In regard to the port of Subic, it was carefully reconnoitered on the 30th of April by 3 of my ships, 2 of which made the complete circuit of the bay without finding anything to oppose them. Your statement as to the probability of greater loss of life in a deep bay like that of Subic than in shallow water, as at Cavite, appears to me to be incontrovertible. Although without accurate knowledge as to the condition of your ships, I have no hesitation in saying to you what I have already had the honor to report to my government, that your defense at Cavite was gallant in the extreme. The fighting of your flagship, which was singled out for attack, was especially worthy of a place in the traditions of valor of your nation. In conclusion, I beg to assure you that I very much regret that calumnies have been cast at you, and am confident that your honor cannot be dimmed by them. With assurances of my highest consideration, very sincerely, George Dewey, Real Admiral, United States Navy.
Teniente Rivas nervously lays down the letter in front of him carefully and looks at the judges.
Colonel Castaneda, as I was saying,
Colonel Cancio, we already discussed this. We've decided, and I expect you to hold to our agreement. After careful consideration of that highly unusual letter, we feel that perhaps the judgment of the court has been too harsh on Almirante Montojo. After evaluating the contents of this letter of Admiral Dewey, the court has decided to change the verdict on Almirante Montojo to not guilty. He is to be released once the orders are finalized this afternoon. But the court orders Almirante Montojo discharged from the Navy.
Colonel Castaneda bangs the gavel.
Gracias, Your Honor. Almirante Montojo has always served Reina Cristina and España. Needless to say, he will very much welcome this news.
You surprise me, Teniente Rivas. Your father would have been proud of you. Maybe there is yet hope for you as a military lawyer.
Muchas gracias, senor. That compliment means a lot to me.
This was an unusual defense strategy. Congratulations. It was well executed.
By your leave, senor.
You were lucky this time, Teniente Rivas. Maybe not so next time.
Not luck, Capitan Sanchez. The law.
I'll see you around, counsel.
Both exit the stage, lights fade. Act 3, Scene 3. Outside, Captain Ricafrente sees Teniente Rivas looking at the Spanish flag. He walks toward him.
Teniente! I must commend you. That was an impressive performance in there.
Gracias, senor.
Walk with me. You know, Teniente Rivas, I was only joking when I said Admiral Dewey could save him, but you took my joke and turned it into a reality. I was taken aback. I liked your words in there. I'm glad you took it seriously. You're still full of idealism, unlike me. I'm just an old man now, a lawyer who's seen too much compromise in this world. Maybe we're now in a different world. We've let go of the Philippines, Cuba, and our other possessions. Now a new world power, this United States, is the new imperial power of the world. Politics and empire. We soldiers are simply used for that. I like what you said in there, that we are in a brotherhood. Nothing should change that. We are all brothers, even those who wear a different uniform from us.
Gracias, senor. I was simply doing my job as a lawyer. I must admit that Almirante Montojo's counsel has also been useful for me, not just as a soldier, but also as a future father.
Good luck. Your client's release is now being processed, and he will hopefully have dinner tonight with his family. That's the best we could do. The loss was too great, so Almirante Montojo will still have to leave the Navy.
I think he is tired of the fighting anyway, senor. He has seen enough of it, I gather. Anyway, he will be happy, I know, tending his garden. At least he did not plead guilty for serving Reina Cristina and España. That was, as you know, untenable for him.
What about your plans, Counselor? If a military career is not your cup of tea, let me know. My brother runs the biggest law firm in Madrid. I could put in a good word, though after today I don't see why you would not consider military service as your lifelong career. Maybe you could even become Judge Advocate General like your late father.
Gracias again, senor. I will think about that carefully. And also for the tip. Even if you only meant it as a joke.
A joke that worked to your advantage and saved a good man. You know, your words in there put the fire back into all of the officers in there. We've been dealing with too many mundane things, too much lawyering of a different kind. That sometimes when we hear words like what you said, it's like a salve applied on a wound. Good luck, Teniente Rivas. You're a good lawyer, but I can see the passion and talent in you.
Teniente Rivas looks at Capitan Ricafrente and then executes a snappy salute. Capitan Ricafrente returns the salute and shakes his hand. They exit the stage in opposite directions, lights fade. Act 3, Scene 4. A military policeman unlocks the jail cell of Almirante Montojo, walks out towards his waiting wife and sons. They hug each other. Suddenly, Teniente Rivas enters.
Sorry I'm late, Almirante Montojo. I'm glad our appeal worked, senor.
No apologies necessary, Teniente Rivas. I'm free because of you. You go ahead. I will just have a word with Teniente Rivas.
His wife nods. She and her children exit. Almirante Montojo puts his hand on Teniente Rivas' shoulder.
I have to learn to become a civilian again. I heard they forced me out of the Navy, but then, again, it could have been worse.
Si, senor. Without Admiral Dewey's intercession, the guilty verdict would have stayed. But at least, senor, you are free. And without doing a plea bargain, as you asked.
Ah, Admiral Dewey, truly an officer, and most especially a gentleman. I wish the circumstances were different, of course, but that is the hand I was dealt with. Anyway, Teniente Rivas, let's go home.
They both exit, lights fade. Act 3, Scene 5. Teniente Rivas enters, walks, and stares at the painting of his late father, the former Spanish Judge Advocate General. A few moments later, Evita Mallorca enters. They're both staring at the painting.
I understand there was a naval lawyer who was able to save his client from a court-martial just recently. I heard he was a very fine lawyer.
Si, I know that lawyer. I have heard good things said about him.
If you know about this lawyer, can you tell me about him?
Senorita, if you will allow me to take you to lunch, I will tell you about this fine lawyer.
Senor, I am engaged, you know.
I'm sure he will not mind, senorita.
Maybe, senor. We will see.
Evita Mallorca smiles. They both walk out of the courthouse together, black out, and curtain.